Once upon a time, a precious princess was born from the middle-aged king and queen in a far land. The king was much elated and held a feast to celebrate the birth of the princess. All the fairies of the land were invited and asked to bless the child. One after another, the fairies blessed the baby girl. I bestow the graceful beauty upon you, my princess. They also granted her kindness, wisdom, and good health. The fairies also wished the child to have a voice like an oriole, dance like a feather, play the instruments like no one else could, and to live a happy life with the love of her life. Then a wicked fairy appeared. She came to confront the king about why she wasn't invited to the feast.
You all have given the child fine gifts. I shall give her something too. I wish the princess will be pricked by the spindle and die when she reaches maidenhood.
The king and queen begged the wicked fairy to revoke the curse, but the wicked fairy ignored their earnest request and flew away. Her magic was very powerful. The other fairies did their best to revoke the curse, but the curse wasn't revoked completely. The princess shall not die, but she will fall into a deep sleep for 100 years.
After 100 years, a prince shall appear and awaken the princess.
The king ordered to destroy all the spindles in the kingdom. Years went by, and the princess turned 16. The princess grew to be the beautiful, wise, and talented girl as the fairies wished. One day, the princess went on a picnic to an old castle. The princess explored the entire castle, and she discovered a garret at the top of the tower. An old lady was drawing a thread from the spindle. The old lady could not hear well and did not follow the king's order. The spinning spindle looked very interesting to the princess.
Granny, I would like to try too.
The old lady taught the princess how to use the spindle. The princess enjoyed the activity, but then she suddenly screamed and collapsed. She had been pricked by the spindle. The king came in shedding tears and ordered,
"The princess will now sleep for the next 100 years. Prepare the best room and lay the princess down on a golden bed with satin sheets."
The queen summoned the good fairies and asked for their help. The fairies could not awaken the princess. Instead, they made the rest of the castle fall into a deep sleep. All the people and animals were put into a sleep until the princess awoke. Fairies covered the entire castle with bramble so that no one could trespass the castle. The entire castle fell into a peaceful sleep. The guards fell asleep with spears in their hands. One servant fell asleep with a pail of water on her head, and a horse fell asleep as he bent over to eat the forage. The rest of the castle fell asleep along with the princess. Time passed, and words of the sleeping princess spread like a legend. Many young men went into the castle to save the princess, but none of them came back alive. They wandered and died in the bramble. One day, a prince heard of the sleeping princess and came to the castle. The prince was very kind and a valiant person. Surprisingly, when the prince passed by the bramble, it would clear the path, and the snakes would slither away. This prince was destined to awaken the princess. He walked through the woods and went straight to the castle. When he arrived in front of the castle, the bridge came down. The prince entered the silent castle. The guards, servants, and animals were all in a deep sleep. The prince reached the most beautiful and found the princess sleeping on the golden bed.
The princess is so beautiful!
He exclaimed.
I shall pay my respects to you, beautiful princess.
The prince kissed the princess's forehead. Suddenly, the princess opened her eyes. She had awoken from the long years of sleep. I've waited for so long for you to come, my prince. I dreamed of you for the past 100 years. Now everything in the castle will awaken. Everything in the castle really did begin to awake. The guards yawned as they gripped their spears again, and the servant with the water pail let it down and filled it with water. 100 years had passed, but things were back in place as if nothing had happened. The king and queen shed tears of joy as they hugged the princess. The king told the story and held a celebration for the prince.
I am old now. I hope you would take my daughter as your bride.
I was going to propose to her.
After waiting for 100 years, the princess and the prince finally held a magnificent wedding. The queen was very happy for her daughter, and the people of the castle blessed the princess. The princess looked amazingly happy next to the prince.